Welcome, everybody, and today's presentation on retouching here at the San Diego International Photography and Digital Arts Exhibition here at the San Diego County Fair. Welcome. It's an honor to be here. It's going to be a lot of fun. So our presentation is going to focus on Photoshop and retouching. I want you guys to be involved. So ask me questions during the presentation. Just shout it out or raise your hand, whatever you want to do, and we get a little bit of a dialogue going. So, how many people here are doing portrait photography? Let me see your hands. So we got one here, we got two back, three. Okay, all right. Or taking the pictures of family or photo, there you go. Yeah, your hand should have been up there, right? Kids count too. So, this is it's going to be a techniques I'm going to share with you, which actually can be applied to non-human subjects as well.
Like a dog.
Like a dog, architecture, automobiles. It's going to be some techniques I'm going to share with you that I think you're going to find quite interesting. All right, so during this presentation, or before the presentation, I kind of went through my repertoire of photography and kind of looked at a varieties of examples of what I can share with you today. I'm going to share one I recently got from Lois. I'm going to share some techniques. I'm going to share the techniques first on another person. Then we'll come to him and we'll work on him a little bit. Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to work on this young lady here, and she has some, what we're going to pretend like she's the client, and she wants us to kind of remove the freckles from her face. Now, most clients are probably going to say no, no, leave the freckles alone because it's part of the skin. You want to create retouching approaches that is going to maintain the quality of the skin. But for presentation purposes, we're going to say that this client wants us to smooth out the face and kind of remove some of the stronger freckles on their face. Okay. All right, so we're going to go into Photoshop with our understanding of Photoshop, and I'm going to show you what I'm doing, why I'm doing. We're going to get a little bit of a dialogue going, so ask questions anytime. So I've already opened up this image. Let's go back into Photoshop, and I'm in Bridge right now. Okay, so Bridge is our way of being able to view everything that we have on our hard drive. I'm currently in a folder on my hard drive, currently a retouching folder, and if I select anything here, for example, if I select this object, hit the space bar, I can go ahead and do a full screen with hitting the space bar down. So be aware of that. This is for sharing your results with your client. So we're going to get out of here. We're going to go into Photoshop, and we have the image open here in Photoshop. I'm going to hit Control 0 just to kind of quickly zoom it in a little bit. And I've got options for how I want things to be displayed in Photoshop. Currently, I'm looking at the tabs up here. I'm gonna hit the F key. The F key is the key to move the various display options. Now, when you're retouching, avoid this black option because it's giving you the feeling that the contrast and the saturation of the color is greater than it really is. You want to work in an option that's going to give you a neutral background without all this other stuff up here. So I'm going to hit the F key once because there's three different modes. This is normal, full screen, gray background, full screen, black background. We want full screen, gray background. We'll work in this for now. All right, so I'm going to zoom in, space bar and control held down together, and then click and hold your mouse and move left to right. Now I want to share with you that I'm currently using what's called, it's a stylus and tablet. All right, now Wacom is probably one that you're most familiar with, right? This one is called a SenseLab. I really do like the SenseLab. So that's what I'm using today. And when you do my intermediate class with the Wacom tablet, everybody must have this pad. And now we can talk about where to get this in a little bit. I have a pen. It has pressure sensitivity. This is really going to help in my retouching. So I'm going to work more like a painter. Okay?
Is that a? Oh,
So go ahead and ask your
no, it
question.
went away. It looked like she had an earring there, but it was actually your cursor.
Yeah, that's my cursor. That's right there. All right. So we have our client. She wants us to smooth out the face, but I'm going to show you some techniques I think you're going to find very, very interesting. This technique is officially called the frequency separation technique. It's a more advanced way of separating your color from your details so that you can work on one or the other independently. Now, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. We want two separate layers of this subject. One layer with color only, the second layer with only the details that we see. Okay. Now I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to hit Command or Control J is a shortcut for duplicating. I use shortcuts regularly because it's going to speed up my production time. So I'm going to use this one. I'm going to treat this one as my original image, and I'm going to duplicate it twice. Okay. I'm going to hit Command J twice, once and again. The top layer, I'm going to call it my frequency. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and name that one. And the bottom layer right below it, I'm going to name that one color.
So to get it set up so you can name it, you double click on it?
That's correct. So to change the name, I let the cursor, which is the question, how do I change the name? I let the cursor hover over the letter, double click it, and then it allows me to edit this. So I'm going to call this one color. And you're going to learn all this in the beginning class, right? We address all that in the beginning Photoshop class. All right, so frequency, which I misspelled it, so I'm going to come back. Did I misspell it? Or I can't see it.
Too small.
Yeah, see, that's why when I do these presentations on this laptop, I always bring with me my handy dandy reading glasses because laptops are notoriously makes everything small. When I was a kid, I used to buy big novels, right? And the type is like 5 point, and I had no problems reading it. I'm sorry, those days are over. Okay. So yeah, so that's frequency. It's spelled correctly. It's spelled correctly. Just it's hard to see it. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this. I'm going to take my original layers below here, right? Select each layer, and I'm going to use the shortcut Command G for group. I'm going to group them together. And there's the group. So I want you to watch me. I don't want you to take notes because I'm recording this presentation.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
Okay, I'm recording this. So I'm going to double click it, and I'm going to call this an original images. All right. And then all I'm going to do is that eyeball on the left-hand side, I'm going to turn it off, right? So if I turn off the eyeball from all layers, you're going to get this transparent effect. That's what that white and gray pattern represents, is a transparent layer, like a transparent sheet of acetate. So I'm going to turn on the color, and we're going to start working in the color layer. I selected the color layer because Photoshop can only work in one layer at a time, right? Now, I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to do this. What we're going to do is we're going to eliminate the detail. So keep this in mind. I want no detail here. All I want is what? Tell me.
Sorry.
What do we want? One layer is frequency, the other layer is what?
Color.
Color. All we care about is color here.
Right.
No details.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the most obvious thing to do, which is filter, blur. Why? Because I want to blur the details out. Take the detail completely out. And then go to something called Gaussian blur. Now we have other options for this particular technique, but for now we'll use Gaussian blur. Select it. And what the Gaussian blur does is it kills the detail, leaving only the color. Is that making sense? So if we look at it visually, we're seeing a big blobs of color. And you can adjust this and you can play with it around a little bit. I just We're going to really just make it blur out like crazy. Okay, now, no detail. There's no detail here, just color. This layer, we want only the detail. So what that means is if I turn the eyeball on this layer, it'll block the color to show the full original photograph. So what I want to do is pull this color out of this image, leaving only the detail. Does that make sense so far? Okay. So how many people are familiar with the frequency separation technique? Let me see your hand. Okay, one person. Lois is not familiar with it. Lois always ignores me. That's okay. So we will.
Which Photoshop are you using? The most advanced one?
This is the latest, greatest one. There's only one Photoshop now. So the question is which Photoshop am I using?
And that number, as a number, I follow that. What's the whole?
2024 Photoshop 2024.
2024.
That's correct.
That's the newest version.
Adobe no longer does versions. They stopped that years ago. Years ago. Okay.
So what are you going to buy these days? 2024?
That's the only thing. That's the only thing you can buy. You no longer have options between versions in Photoshop.
Yeah, you subscribe on.
You subscribe. So right now, you can get the photographer's deal. I tell you, why don't we just go online and show it to you? Let's bring up. There we go. Adobe. Let's see, photographer's deal. Let's see, I think it's Adobe photographers, and that's a good question because well, there is the Adobe photography plan.
Get all that.
All right, so you get. Let's go find it. There it is, $119 for the year. So basically, it's $9.95 a month. Right? It's basically is $9.95 a month, and what you get is Photoshop and Lightroom together for $9.95 a month, which comes out to $119.88 a year.
Some people don't like to use Lightroom; they use Bridge or some of the other ones.
Well, Bridge is the program I just showed you, right? So if I'm in Photoshop, and if we go to File menu and I say Browse in Bridge, that's Bridge. It allows you to preview everything that's on your system. That is all Lightroom is. It's Adobe Camera Raw and Bridge put together in one program. That's all it is. Right? So yeah, if we go back to, there we go. So you can get this right now, and you'll get Adobe Photoshop, the latest, greatest Adobe Photoshop in Lightroom. And there's only one version of Photoshop now, right? Everybody gets the same version. There's no longer multiple versions of Photoshop. Come join us, because Photoshop is really fun.
Right.
You're supposed to smile when we say
And
that.
the older version, you still use that. If you don't have the new one, can you still use the old one?
Well, yeah, the old one is one that used to be the old licensing, where you just install from a disk. Yeah, you could, but you're not going to want to go back and use the old one.
You don't do that.
No. I mean, when you move forward and get better tools that'll do things for you better, faster, easier, you don't go back to the old way. We don't go back to using stone and chisel anymore. We use. Okay, Greg, here's a question.
I would recommend if you get a new one, save the old one for a little while, just to make sure that there are no bugs in the new one.
Right.
But it's really rare that I've ever had a problem in recent years.
Yeah.
With the old one. So.
Because when you get the new one, supposedly, you would assume that Adobe has worked out a lot of the bugs from the old one. That is, right? Right. But all software has bugs. Even the new one, it's got bugs. Anything you use will have bugs in it. So
You have to buy a bug detector and.
no, there is no bug detector. You just have to deal with it. We're human beings. We make mistakes. Right? That's right. That would be, if there was a such thing as a bug detector program, we'd be rich. Make that. It'll detect any bugs in any program, guaranteed.
Is that including the tax, that part?
I would assume so. Oh, wait, but yeah, but for 119 for the year, tax is not an issue to you.
Oh,
You know that. So, so, all right.
You can use this on either platform,
That's right, Mac or PC.
Mac or PC.
Mac or PC.
Okay, so it doesn't matter which one you have.
Doesn't matter.
You just have to
Doesn't matter.
specify which one.
Yeah, when you go install it, you have a button. Are you on the Mac or are you on the PC? And then you just click one or the other. So your license that you pay, the 119 for the year, includes Mac or PC, and you can run it on 2 computers. Actually, you can put it on as many computers as you want. It's just that you can only work on it 2 computers at one time. Right? So if you have a house in France and you fly to France and you have a computer there and you got Photoshop installed on it, you can now use Photoshop. Your license will include that computer as well.
International.
It doesn't matter. It's your license. You can put it on whatever computers you want. Worldwide. It's world domination, you know.
Monopoly.
Well, yeah, well, we're not going to get in there. You stay around for our next presentation. We're gonna.
Gates own?
What was that?
Gates? Is he the owner of this?
No. That question is not relevant to our presentation, sir.
Who produced it?
We'll get there. Sit tight. All right, here we go.
Somebody got rich.
Somebody's plural got rich. Okay. All right, here we go. Let's go play. We want to separate. We're going to pull the color out of this image to produce only the detail. That's what we're going to do next. So remember, the name of this layer is color. The name of this layer is frequency. So with the frequency selected currently, we're going to go to a technique where we're going to go to the image menu right up here. When I say menu, I'm talking about these guys up here. Layer menu, type menu, select menu. I'm going to go to the image menu, and I'm going to select what's called apply image. Now, what apply image does is it applies these blend modes to the layer that I'm in. Now, in the intermediate Photoshop class, we talk about what the blend modes do. I'm going to go down the list here, and you can see that they're applying a certain effect as I go down the list. Okay. Now, the effect that I want is a particular effect that's going to subtract something out of this layer. So, but what layer do I want to use to subtract something out of it? I want to subtract the color. So if I come here under the layer, right beneath the source, I want to go to the color layer. Then I want to tell Photoshop to use the blending mode, not darken or any of these ones, but I want one called subtract. Right there. So I'm going to subtract that. Now the next thing I need to do, one last thing I need to do, is to tell it what color to dominate. Right now, the color dominating this image is kind of black. Why do we know that? Because 0, right there, 0 represents black, right? 255 represents the absolute brightness, white. So I'm going to need to put for the offset 128, which is direct in the middle of medium gray. That's what I want for this. Now the last thing I'm going to do is offset the scale by 2. And there it is. Okay, that's my frequency right there. I'm going to click OK. And we're going to take a look at this. The color is gone. When you remove color, what do we get? We get medium gray. That's what happens. You take the color out, and it's nothing but medium gray. Now, all we want to do now is give it a layer blend mode that's going to allow that detail to blend naturally with the color to give you exactly what you already had from the beginning. And that particular blend mode is going to be linear light right there. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this into a layer group, okay? I'm going to I selected both layers. I'm going to hit Control or Command G. There it is. And I'm going to call this group Retouch. Let me spell it right here. Okay, Retouch. So now below is the original image, right? So watch, I'm going to turn off the retouch layer and you're going to see that there's no difference. I'm going to get in real close, okay? Turn on retouch, turn off retouch, turn on retouch, turn off retouch. There's no difference. It's exactly the same thing. Well, but something did happen. So we're going to turn off this bottom layer, turn this one back on, open up the group. We turn off the bottom color, it leaves you with the frequency. If you turn that back on and turn off the frequency, it leaves us with the color. All right? So now what does that do for us as artists? Okay. So what does that do for us as artists? It gives us some flexibility. Okay, let's what flexibility does it give us? All right. Let's start with messing with the color so that we can change the lighting on our subject. I'm going to add a blank layer. A blank layer is like a regular transparent sheet of acetate. Right down here below your layers palette, right? That's what we're in, the layers group, layers palette. Right to the left side of the garbage can, I can click that button and it adds a transparent white and gray transparent sheet of acetate. I can paint in that acetate. So remember, the frequency and the color is separated. And in between that, we're going to change the color. So if I want to take all this redness out from underneath your eye, I'm going to hit the B for brush. That's going to be my brush, the work end. Oops, let's see what happened here. Let me turn that off there. Oh, I see what happened. So I need to put that new layer back there. Okay, so I need to come back and I'm going to adjust my brush size, right? That's Alt or Option and right click and drag. Down is hard, up is soft. That's my brush. Right to left, holding Alt and right click. But I tell you what, I'm using a stylus, right? I've got buttons on my stylus here, right? Got these little buttons here. I can program my top button to resize my brush. So I'm going to go to the SenseLab software for my stylus to make that happen. So, all right, let's do this. Let's go here. I will look for the SenseLab. Let's pull this out of here. I don't want Xbox. I want SenseLab. Here, better yet, I'll just go right down here and look right into the app section here. And we'll go down to the SenseLab. And there it is, SenseLabs. And I'm using the 3-button mouse there. It's a picture of my stylus. I'm gonna just come over to here and you can see which button this represents. So I need to make sure that Photoshop is selected. And by default, that very top button is a Control Z, which is undo, which I don't want that. So if I click this like this here, I can go to Modifier and use my shortcut Alt, right, and right click and click OK. Now, if I hold down that top button right up here, which is right here in my stylus, which everybody can see, right? Go back into Photoshop, hold it down and drag left to right, and there it is. I don't have to use my left hand. I use my left hand for something else. So if I hold it down and move to my stylus, I'd hover above my pad. You learn all this in my intermediate class. That resizes the brush. Down is hard and up is soft. So I'm gonna stay soft, a very soft technique. All right, I'm gonna adjust the brush size, and I want to get rid of that harsh, that little, pinkishness right underneath your eyes. I want to replace that pinkishness with what? Probably that cleaner skin color, possibly.
Explain there's a strip right there.
This what?
There's a strip right there that's clean.
All right, so right about where? About here, or?
You want it to be more white, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking selecting right down in here.
Okay.
So if I hold the Alt key down, that's the shortcut while I'm in the paintbrush for sampling. And if I tap on that, right, that will, right, Alt right click or left click and hold down. Wherever that little eyedropper sits, that's the color it's going to sample. Right? The bottom color is the original color that the foreground was. The top color is the color that you're changing it into. So I'm going to go grab something like something close to that. That's a little bit of a lighter pinkish area. Okay. Now, if you look, my foreground color has now taken on that particular color. Now, adjust my brush size, and I'm going to gently. Now, I've got pressure sensitivity on my pen, so I'm going to gently touch. And it's changing the color, but it's not touching the frequency. The detail is never touched, only the color. So now I can change the photograph to look like this much better even lighting. Is that kind of making sense? He's giving me that strange look. Like, what? Is that making sense a little bit? No? Okay, you will. So let me finish working. Let me just go ahead and brush a little. I'm hitting lightly on my brush. I'll show you what I'm doing. If I go to my windows, I'll make just a new file here, okay? We'll say this is going to be a 5-inch by 5-inch file. And click Create. And I'm going to say my foreground color is going to be black. So if I press very light with my brush, let me go ahead and make a new layer for this and make sure this is normal. Okay, go to my brush and I press light. I get light harder. Now I'm pressing down harder, and even harder, and even harder. I can control the pressure. That's what I'm doing. I'm using my stylus to add a little bit of pink, a little more pink, or a lot of pink. All right, so if I come back, see, so I'm going to come back and say, let's go to this side over here, and let's grab some of that skin tone right there. Click on it, right? See, wherever I say, I'm going to grab some of that skin tone right about there. All right, I'm going to adjust the size of my brush, and this takes practice, right? Because you don't want the face to look like you've been painting on it, right? You want to be as even and subtle as possible, and that's why I'm using a very soft brush and not a hard brush like this. So important. So make it as soft as possible, and then I'm going to gently touch. See? Gently touch. I'll come here, make it, and get in there a little bit. See, and you want to pull back to kind of see how it looks, because you don't want to overdo it.
Right.
We got a lot of bright areas that we're going to want to take care of. So, but I'll show you that in just a little bit. So I'm going to come back over to this side. I'm going to go grab that brighter portion on that portion of her cheek, and I'm going to just give it a slight touch up right about there. You see that? So I'm changing the lighting on her now. Is that making sense? So now if I come up to here, I can do the same thing to maybe change the lighting up here a little bit. And then on her forehead, look at this. I've got this little area up here. I can smooth it out a little bit, just like so. But the frequency, the details are not being touched. They're completely separated. All right, so if this is a little bit too hot in here, then I can come over and sample some of this. The little slightly darker skin tone there. And then start here and gently brush it back in. Look at that.
Nice.
And the details in the skin, because the frequency is on a separate layer, maintains. You keep your skin tones, right? Just gently touch, see that? And slowly patching up that big bright area. So I'm starting over in the more of the toned areas and bringing it on over. See that? Isn't that interesting? All right, so space bar gives me my hand tool, bring it down, come down, do the same thing with her face here. I think I'll come over here and grab a little bit of a darker tone right about like that, okay? And then we'll come and we'll just kind of like just brush it on top.
You say the older Photoshop versions wouldn't be able to do what you're doing here,
The older Photoshop versions will do this.
but not as easy.
The older Photoshop versions have a workflow overall, because what's happening is Adobe is using beta testers that's telling them how they would like to work. So as Photoshop ages, it gets more efficient
Quicker.
and quicker and faster, right? So your version of Photoshop, if you have an old version of Photoshop, it won't be as fast as the new version. And there's nothing you can do about that, right? So you just have to, can't help it. You have to update.
Are you gonna try to take the spots off her nose?
Yep, no, I'm going to do that next. That's coming up next. I know you're impatient. What that she just asked. That was her question. Was what are we going to do about the freckles?
That's her nature.
Well, we could, but we're going to pretend like the client wants to take them away just for tutorial purposes.
She's gonna wear some foundation to hide them for a while.
That's right. She's a professional model. She's wearing foundation to hide them. I like the way you think.
What about the braces?
Well, that's interesting. We could do that. I can show you some interesting techniques for that. Well, one thing at a time. All right, one thing at a time. So let's deal with the freckles. I tell you what, let's turn this on and off so you can see what we've done. Because your brain is amazing. You've completely forgotten what we've done. Right? So I turn it off before. That's the original. After.
That's good.
Before.
Yeah, you did it.
After.
It's better.
That's better. Right? Now, let's go deal with the freckles. Now, what you're going to do is, I like to avoid a destructive workflow. I want everything in their own layer so I can always take away and bring it back whenever I like. Come join us. You're welcome. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a brand new layer on top of my frequency layer. I'm going to click this little icon there, and we have a blank brand new layer. Now, Photoshop has some tools. Now, this next tool may or may not be in your old version of Photoshop. I don't know what version you have. But the tool that I'm going to use is going to be right over here. And I've got it in the double layer option. And the fourth tool down on the right hand side, that's the clone tool. I want this one here. So yeah, there's two different ones. One's called the remove tool, and the other one's called the spot brush healing tool. So let me show you what the remove tool does. So I'm going to select it. It says use this tool like a brush. Now you see the little help menus that pop up for you? You don't have that in the old version of Photoshop. No. This is more newer to the subscription stuff. And I'm in a brand new layer, and I'm going to call that. So this is called what? This is called the remove tool, right? So I'm going to double click this layer, and we're going to call it remove tool. So we're going to kind of do a side-by-side comparison. So remove tool. All right. So now I'm going to make the brush bigger. Look at the nature of the brush. If I go up and down, there's no soft edge. It's hard. That is the nature of this particular tool.
How can you tell if it's hard or soft according, is it the color? Like that's
Yeah,
red?
it's the red color.
So if it's hard, it's a blue?
That's right. So the question is how do you tell visually?
Yeah.
And the way you tell visually is looking at the edge of that brush and see if it's soft or if it's hard. So right now it's obviously hard. Right? If I go to the regular brush, that's soft. See? That's hard. That's soft. That's hard.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. So we want to be in the that brush tool, and it stays hard. It never goes soft, and you can't control it. And then one other thing I want to make sure that happens is right here on the top are your option bar for all of your tools. Okay? And this tool will work when you're working directly on an dimensional layer, but it will not work if you're using a blank layer because there's nothing in the blank layer unless you hit sample all layers. Right? So click sample all layers. Come join us. Okay. And watch what happens. I'm going to get in close. Make the brush small, about the size of that particular blemish. And I'm going to paint on it. You see a little red, and then release. Paint here and release. Paint here and release. And I'm going to do that all the way through this piece. It's an amazing tool. I think this was probably one of the initial tools before the one I'm going to show you. So as I start to come down through here and quickly remove blemishes and or freckles, we're cleaning it up. Right? So if I'm moving a little closer and I start to take away more of that blemishing. Isn't that amazing? Now, let's see it before and after. Before, after. And it maintained the natural quality of the skin, didn't it? All right? Before and after. Now, let's turn this layer off. Let's add a new layer. Okay? And in this new layer, we're going to use another brush. We're going to use the spot healing brush. And let's double click that layer. Let's call this one spot healing brush. And the advantage of the spot healing brush is this. I can get soft and hard. Remember the last two only allowed hard? This I can go soft or hard. So I'm going to go soft like this. And I'm going to bring it down. And I'm going to also make sure that on that options bar, I've targeted sample all layers. All right. Now this is how it works. If I paint, you see a little black. That's the area it's affecting. And it's basically doing the same thing, but it's giving you a little bit extra added control, especially control over the nature of the brush itself. Is that kind of making sense? So now I can add subtler results. Okay. Pull this out. I'm just going to kind of go over here a little bit. And it's this very fast process. Okay. Before and after. Everybody see that? Before and after. Is he looking? He's not looking.
He's asleep.
Oh, he's not. He's typing on a cell phone. Well, there you go. See, before and after. Before and after. Okay, there we go. Is that making sense? All right. All right, so now the next question is, let's take those braces off, right? All right, here we go.
Oh, what is it
Right now.
Exactly.
Oh, 15 of it.
This new technique you will not have in the old version of Photoshop.
Oh, I was speaking about the victim here.
Oh no, I'm talking about the tool,
Oh,
right? We can help the victim, but it's going to be harder in the older version of Photoshop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the lasso tool, which is this selection tool here. The key to mastering Photoshop is mastering selections. Selections and masks are exactly the same thing. So I'm going to just select her teeth up here. In fact, I'm going to do a little bit more. I'm going to select all of that. And we're just going to do the upper portion of her teeth. Okay? Right down here, you have what's called a generative fill box. I'm going to click that box, and then all I'm going to do is click this word. Actually, I need to make a new layer. There we go. I'm going to, call this layer new teeth, okay? Well, we're going to call it upper teeth. Okay. Oh, I didn't spell teeth right, did I? T-E-E. There we go. Upper teeth. Okay. All right. So we have it selected. This little box here, you'll find it under the Windows menu. It's always down here, right there, called Contextual Taskbar. Okay. I would click Generate next and watch what Photoshop does. Sit back and relax. You have a little progress bar there.
generate what? Oh, it took it. Oh,
She actually looked better with the braces.
there you go.
All right, but
She looked better with the
Photoshop gave you several versions. Photoshop's right. It look better with the braces, but look, we got another version.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck you. Oh, that's what she did. Yeah.
And then we got another version,
That's better. A little bit.
a little bit better, but not all that great. Well, we can do it again.
Not perfect.
We can do it again. We'll hit the generate button right there. See, the older version of Photoshop does not have this. It makes your life a lot easier.
She'll like that.
Okay, so there we go. That's not too bad.
Left a couple braces on the side.
Yeah, left a couple. We can deal with that. Let's try another version. Let's see.
Too yellow.
A little bit too yellow. And then this one here.
Just the bright.
That's not so bad. But I tell you what, let's go here, turn this off and on, off and on. Okay, so we've got something that we might be able to use, okay? And I'm going to show you why.
It's like a false.
False teeth.
false teeth on the top.
It does look like gold.
Right, but we can change that because what we have is a mask here. The mask is telling you what's viewed and what's not viewed. Alt click on the mask. Anything in white is viewed. Anything in black is not viewed. All right. And now what I'm going to do is come back here, get in close, select my B key for the brush, make it a soft edge brush if I want to, just kind of get it to the right size. And I want to take, now I want my teeth, if I turn this off, I want it to match my teeth here, right? I want it to match the shape and the location of the teeth, which it pretty much is covering it up exactly the way I want, but it's not matching the exact location. So that's where I start to take away to match this. So I'll take it, there we go. All right, so now I've cut away too much. So all I'm going to do is bring back, hit the X key to print with white on the mask, and just match her teeth. See?
Well, you need a lot of patience for this kind of.
Well, yeah, you do. I mean, well, with art in general, you need patience. All right? Time. Well, of course, everything needs time. If you master anything, you need time, right? So,
Too old.
no, you're not too old. That's just your attitude. You can master whatever you want. All right? Then come over here and add, and there it is. It's matching her teeth. And I did that in about 30 seconds?
Half a minute.
All right, and of course, I can do the same thing for the bottom, but we're pretty much out of time, almost out of time. So let's do another image. We worked on her enough. All right, so I'll just save this one.
Still landscape.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, like you said, you can't do that. Tool does not exist in the old version of Photoshop. That's why you should upgrade.
Why they want you to upgrade.
Well, they want money.
Well, they want money, but you're also getting something. Yeah, you're getting features that's going to make your life as a photographer and an artist so much faster, so much easier.
It's only 119 if you had to pay. Was it 19? No,
It was $800 for Photoshop in the past.
Wow, that's a lot more, huh?
Yeah, if we go to if you want the latest greatest new version of Photoshop, you had to pay $800 for it.
How long did that last? Like 5 years?
Oh, it lasts. Yeah, the licensing lasts for a year.
1 year.
Yeah, 1 year.
And then you have to pay another $800, right?
And that disc is just trash, then just hang it up.
Yeah, hang it up because we don't, software companies in general don't use discs anymore. They use, everything is downloaded from their server. Right. And the great thing about it is that you're always getting the latest, greatest version of the software.
Nice. So they just send you like an email, say time to upgrade or something?
Oh, they'll show here. As a matter of fact, that's a good question. The question is how are you notified if it needs to be updated? It's right here. If I go to my Windows software,
I got one for my car, the GPS.
yeah,
Yeah.
Adobe Creative Cloud right there.
2004.
There's all my software. If I go to my apps, and I've already updated this, it'll tell you up here on the top which ones needed updating. Like right here, it'll say, let me see if I have one that's not installed.
Well, if you go to the help thing, it says at the bottom, get updates, do it automatically.
Well, what was that? Where?
If you go to the help button, and then at the bottom of the help button, you say you're in Photoshop, you say help.
Oh, you in Photoshop? Oh, yeah.
At the bottom of the help, it'll say get updates.
Yeah. And then up right here, that's file. Let's see, Creative Cloud. It'll tell you, your apps will say update. The word update will pop up. You click on the word update and it'll update your software. See, I own everything that Adobe has, so they're right here. They're all right here. So yeah, that's how you know. All right, let's go to the other image real quick. Hey, welcome. I'm going to close this one out, and I'm going to close that one out. I'm not going to save it. And we're going to work on this image here. So this is one from Lois, a photograph we took. We're going to try to improve upon it. So we're going to go ahead and duplicate that twice. Control J twice. All right. All right. We're going to go down to the bottom. And we'll apply a different technique other than Gaussian blur for this one. So I'm going to apply a technique. I'm going to go to the filter menu. Let's see. Where is we got the blur gallery. Let's see. We got the blur gallery. I'm going to go to, let's see what I've got here. Well, maybe we're going to be in a blur, Gaussian blur, motion, shape blur. I guess we could, beginning where I put, all right, I tell you what, I'll stick here because I'm not remembering. It's motion blur, motion radial blur. Distort, and let me go over to, well, we could do, no, I don't want to do that. Let's do this instead. Let's do this instead. Let's go. We'll go to blur. We'll stick to the standard Gaussian blur. Here it is. Surface blur. That's what I was looking for. Surface blur. And if you look at the surface blur, it's blurring the skin, but what surface blur is maintaining your details. If we go to the threshold, we can get rid of the details, which is what we want to do. All right, so I'm going to take it just to see the difference. I'm going to take it to right about there. Let me play with the radius a little bit more. Yeah, that really distorts it. I'm going to bring it back to right about there. That's good enough. So we're basically eliminating the details. Now we go to the top, and we're going to pull the color to retain only the frequency, right? So we'll call this one color. And up here, we'll call this one frequency. We're going to come back up to image, apply image, subtract, which it remembered, but we need to tell it what layer to subtract from. We want the color layer.
Right.
There. See?
That's great.
Now, from here, we're simply going to go to linear light.
Are we supposed to know which ones to pick?
Now, your question is, how are you supposed to know which ones to pick?
Yeah.
Well,
Like, how would we know to pick linear light and not some other one?
that is something you're going to memorize. You can explore other ones. Like if I go explore hard light, it's going to look different from the original image. I want it to match the original image.
Okay.
And what linear light does is it maintains the natural quality
Okay.
of the information in the frequency layer, and it eliminates all the gray. That's what this section does. The overlay section, it eliminates your medium gray, and it's going to apply your details naturally, so that if you before and after, I'm clicking, Alt key or Option key and click the eyeball on the background to show only the background and the background with the two. They're exactly the same. There's no difference. So at this point, if we add a new layer in between it, and we want to kind of clean up the skin or the lighting on the skin, there's my brush. Alt key gives me my eyedropper, and let's say there's one trick little technique you could use. is grab your lasso tool. Well, it's not going to work in this case because I'm putting everything on its own layer. So I'm going to just simply go back to my brush, Alt, grab that darker value because I'm going to brush over my highlights. So gently brush over to see that? See that? Brushing over the highlights. Isn't that amazing? And you've just gotten rid of your highlight. So if I go before, before, after. Now down here, I brushed a little too much, right? So I take that off and on. I want to maintain that little shadow in there. So I simply come over, Alt, click on this shadow, and just bring it back a little bit, like that. So you can change your lighting style. I'll come over, Alt, click this here, and we're going to kind of play with the lighting in here. Pull this on up. I might go ahead and target. Oops, not what I wanted to do. Click the wrong thing. Target this color and then brush it all over to give him a nice even skin effect here. See? See that? So now we're maintaining a smoother skin effect. And I'm going to select some of the pinkish area underneath the eyebrow and get rid of the shadow of the hat. I'm also messing with the, it's like this here. Pull this on over. All right. So if we go and show you the original, once again, let's get in closer. Oops, I didn't mean to do that one. Alt before and after. Before and after. Isn't that fun?
I'm gonna look at that up close.
Yeah.
Before and after.
Before? Okay, so before, after.
Oh, okay.
Before, and I recorded this so you can watch the whole presentation.
Very affluent market.
Oh yes. All right, so I think we're out of time, and as we got 2 minutes left, we're out of time. Thank you for coming. We stick around. We're going to have the AI presentation dialogue coming up. You're definitely going to want to see that
What time does that start?
at 4. It's 3:30 now.
We have a half an hour to go.
Half an hour. Take a little break. Get a snack. Walk around. Look at the gallery, the photographs in the gallery if you haven't done so. And all right, and I will get this recorded presentation out to everybody who's given me their
Do I
email.
have to put it down again, or you'll just have it from last time?
Well, you have it. You're on the user group list, so it'll come through the user group. But give me your name and number so I know to call you about the beginning class. Oh, okay. All right, good, perfect.
I have people bugging me every day.
All right, all right, all right. Thank you for coming, everybody. We'll see you in just a little bit.